It's here. The AC machine showed up today on the freight truck, and it's a momentous day for sure, I tell you that, to have your own AC machine. It's absolutely awesome. We used to have one just like this in the shop and be fighting for it back and forth during AC season. Now, the thing's just sitting here waiting for me. The other problem we had is everybody else in the shop was too lazy to fill the refrigerant into the internal tank, to fill the oiler, and to drain the old oil. So it's all gone now, and I have my own, and it's sitting right here just waiting for me. Always filled, always topped off. The filter always changed out on there. Now you're probably asking why you need an AC machine when you could just have a manifold gauge set and a can tapper and those little cans, stuff like that. Why can't you just use that? Well, for a do-it-yourselfer, it's probably just fine, and it's accurate enough. Whereas me, being a professional, when I fill something, it has to be the exact spec on there for refrigerant. Nowadays, cars, they're really strict on the amount of refrigerant that they have to have in them. I mean, it has to be pretty darn exact. Whereas the old days, the systems were bigger, and they just kind of flowed, and it just kind of worked. Whereas now everything's so much smaller, it has to be very, very accurate. And also, I'm bound by EPA 609 requirements. So like I have EPA 609 card, I got to register my stuff at my shop, my equipment, so it all meets the standards, and I have to be all legal about it. Not to mention, I want to have the most accurate charge into the customer's vehicle as possible when I'm done doing anything on the vehicle, an AC repair or a valve cover I'm taking off that requires the AC to be discharged. Now, as many of you know, these things cost around $3,000 to $5,000, and you're probably wondering why do they cost so darn much? It's just the wheeled cart that sucks down your AC. Well, there's a lot of components inside of here, and they're all made to SAE specs on there, so they're held to real high standards to be, certified to be able to recover refrigerant, per the federal government safely and not let it all escape into the atmosphere on there. And there's a lot of components inside here also. I mean, there's a microprocessor board here, you got your valves, you got your high accuracy gauges, you have a vacuum pump right here. It's a high CFM rate on it, so it can boil out the refrigerant and moisture from the system. There's an internal tank in there and scale. There's a junction block with about 20 different solenoids back inside of here to direct the refrigerant flow inside of there. There's the filter that filters water and contaminants out of there. And then there's a regular pump inside of there that actually sucks the AC out of the car initially on there. You got your hoses and stuff like that on here. You got your oil drain right here. It's a bunch of components inside of there. I'll probably open the door in the back and let you guys see inside of there. Now, what I wanted to do today was go through the setup on here and let you guys know a little bit more about these machines. I know a lot about them because I was the guy in the shop that took care of the machine. No one else wanted to do it. The jobs were more important, and I wasn't that kind of guy. So I was the one draining the oil out of there, making sure the filter was changed on them, make sure the refrigerant was filled so it could fill the internal tank, filling the oil. We used to have an oiler on ours. Stuff like that. So I know a lot about them, and we're going to kind of go through it today so you guys can learn a little bit more about these things. Even though you'll probably never own one, it's very interesting stuff. Now, one of the first things you have to do to set up this machine is fill the vacuum pump with oil. They require oil to work, and you got to fill it right about there in the middle of the sight glass on there. And then I'll go through a whole process with that to fill it and adjust it, and then you just put the cap back on and the whole system will be sealed up on there. Now, the next thing it's going to ask you to do is fill the internal tank with refrigerant. There's a tank right down inside of there that looks similar to that one, and it's on a scale inside of there, and they can warm it and pressurize it and everything else to push refrigerant into the vehicle. So they need an internal tank they have control over to do that. So what you do is you come over here, take the low side hose, strap the tank in over here, and connect it up, and that'll suck it down into the internal tank on here, and then you always have onboard storage of refrigerant at all times. Now, what you're going to need is a 30-pound container to store right here, and it'll keep taking it as it needs it to that internal tank on there. And what I like to use is the DuPont stuff or the Motorcraft stuff. It's a higher quality refrigerant on there. And I think DuPont, last I heard, was the inventor of 134A and R12 and all that. If I'm wrong, comment down below. So it has the covering on it here for the valve. So it's all like shrink wrap, so you know it's been sealed since the factory. And this one even has like a hologram back here to show you that it's authentic from DuPont also. So you just get this off of here. And once you turn this valve on there, it's going to be live. It's going to be shooting out of there. So get your little plastic cap off of here and get your fitting onto here. And these can be just done by hand. Nice and tight like that. And on this particular machine, it does not have a separate hose coming out of it on the new ones here. So we're going to use the low side, it says, and connect it up into there. Just clip it on like a regular low side on a vehicle. And the way you usually fill these is liquid, so you flip the tank over and it'll fill it liquid. That's the fastest way to fill the internal tank inside of here. And it goes on a machine like this. Put your little strap around it. Okay. And then you hit start on the machine. It'll start sucking it down from this to the internal tank. Now once that low side hose is connected to the source tank, you should have some kind of pressure inside of that low side now. So it's just showing the gauge here. Mine's showing right about 60 PSI, which is about right. And so you're going to open your low side so it can actually go into the recovery tank inside of there. And then you hit start. Literally comes on and starts sucking it down. And over here, it'll tell you what is in that internal tank on there, what it transferred. And after about 10 to 15 minutes, the internal tank inside of there will be all filled, and it'll let you know on here based on the weight of the tank. Pull the line off of there, make sure you turn your valve in all the way first, close the tank up, and then hit start and it'll clear the lines. Okay, so I have the covers off down below here. We can show you what's inside this puppy. Right there's that vacuum pump, that high CFM vacuum pump I was talking about. Here's the internal storage tank with a couple pressure sensors and solenoid valves on there. And then down below is the scale inside of there and temperature sensor probes. That's the dog. Seems interested. Look at him. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And the back side here is where it gets ultra busy. Look at all that back. All these solenoid valves and sensors. You have filters back here. You have a high volume fan right there. That blows out over here. I mean, I can't even see it. And right there is the regular pump for sucking down the AC. And a couple other different things going on inside of here. I don't know everything about them, but I know they're very complicated, but they're pretty easy to work on once all these covers are off on here. So there's a lot to these machines, and they're all met to that higher, they all have to meet that higher spec like I was talking about. So it gets expensive real quick. Alright, we got it all set up. Hopefully this was interesting to some of you out there. I know it's not for your average do-it-yourselfer in the garage looking to buy one of these things or set it up or how to use it. But it's always nice to know what's out there at these shops you're using. What's important is using one of these if you're working on, let's say, a 09 or newer Ford vehicle, because these systems nowadays, these AC systems, are so much smaller that the charge accuracy needs to be dead on for the system to work properly. There's been countless TSBs recently, it seems, on the new Ford vehicles because the systems are getting even smaller, the 14s and 15s, right? And they're having us adjust the charge level in them. So it just goes to show how important the charge level can be, and it's best to do with a machine like this that gets it down to the ounce on there.